As usual, let us start our Dhamma talk by saying Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. The subject of today's Dhamma talk is forester and deforestation. In this statement, it is essential for one to know the meaning of forester and deforestation beforehand. Conventionally, people are classified as those who live in rural areas and those of city dwellers. These are common usages in social dealings. In the spiritual sense, it has a different perspective. In the common worldly life, an area of land covered chiefly with trees and undergrowth is called forest. In the spiritual sense, mental defilements of greed or lobha, anger or dosa, and delusion or moha are regarded as thick forests, and those who are tainted with these defilements are said to be forest dwellers. So, even those people who are living in modernized grand cities must be categorized as forest dwellers if they are not yet free from mental defilements. One can be deleted from the list of forest dwellers only when one is able to eradicate the mental defilements completely. Here, let us try and understand the simile of deforestation by foresters. In the process of deforestation, the forester has to, 1, with both legs, 2, taking firm foothold on the ground, 3, with one's hands, 4, holding the iron sword, and 5, after sharpening on the whetstone, and 6, one has to cut clear the large and small trees and undergrowth. In this simile, the corresponding examples are 1, with both legs means one's effort, both physical and mental energy. And number 2, taking a firm foothold on the ground signifies establishing purity or moral virtue as the basic foundation by meditating lay and bhikkhu yogis or meditators. Then number 3, as the hands do most of physical activities, and noble conviction or saddha can only do all the wholesome deeds of generosity or dana, morality or sila, and meditation or bhavana. That is why hands means saddha, faith or confidence. Then number 4, here iron sword. Iron sword means penetrating knowledge of wisdom of abandoning defilements. As the deforesting person has to cut the trees and undergrowth of the forest by the sharpened iron sword, the meditator has to eradicate the grosser, moderate and subtle forms of defilements by insight wisdom, path and fruition, knowledge, meaning Mega and Palanyana. So iron sword means the wisdom. The number 5, whetstone means concentration. As the blunt sword has to be sharpened on the whetstone, to develop keen insight, wisdom of discriminating knowledge between mind and matter, clear comprehension of impermanency, nature, unsatisfactoriness, dukkha, and egolessness, anatta, one must possess collectedness of the mind. The number 6, as one has to cut clear the big and small trees and undergrowth by iron sword, the meditator has to first abandon defilements like greed or lobha, anger or dosa, delusion or moha by insight wisdom, and finally eradicate them by noble path and fruition knowledge, megha and phalajnana. Then only one will be free from the state of forester and attain the state of city dweller and realize nibbana by complete extinction of defilements. Now let us study the example cited by the Lord Buddha. During our Lord Buddha's lifetime at the capital city of Savatthi at that time in India, the 5 rich men of the city, after consulting each other, they renounced the household lives and entered the Sangha order. One day, tormented by the death of one of the ex-wife lay women, who was attending them personally with 4 requisites, they wept and wailed woefully. When the nearby bhikkhus learned about their plight, they took them to the presence of the Lord Buddha and reported the matter. After inquiring them about the situation, the Lord Buddha admonished them thus: O dear son bhikkhus, clear the thicket of defilement forest, dependent on the defilement forest, jadi or rebirth, chara or old age, vyadi or sickness, marana or death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair. The whole mass of suffering arises. So dear sons, clearly symbolize large and small forests of gross, moderate and subtle forms of defilements by cutting down with the sharp iron sword of insight, noble path and fruition knowledge. Taking the Lord Buddha's admonishment to their heart, the 5 ex-rich men bhikkhus, by establishing firm virya means effort, foothold on the sila or morality ground, holding the wisdom iron sword with their sada or faith hands, sharpened on the whetstone, and cut the undergrowths or defilements, and deforested, meaning they eradicated the sakara deity or ego belief, vicikiccha or skeptical doubt that can lead to forwarrance or woeful states by attaining noble sodapati path and fruition. So may you all meditators also, by contemplating one's psychophysical phenomena as they arise, be able to realize the nibbana bliss after clearing the defilement, trees and undergrowth of the forest. Now if you all have questions, you may ask. elaborate about the today's talk, especially about the defilements or kilesas. Here, simile is given with the forest growth. In the forest, there are three, you can see the three stages of growth. One is grown up big trees, then smaller trees, and the undergrowth. So there are three varieties of trees that form a forest thicket. So also, mental defilements can be classified into three stages, and that is why here mentioned as three phases of a forest: big trees, and smaller trees, and undergrowth. So also, as a meditator, we have to understand the defilements in three stages. Corresponding to these three growths of a forest, defilements that influence our mind is also in three stages. One is we call Anusaya Kilesa in Pali. Anusaya Kilesa means defilement. Anusaya means latent defilement. Latent means not active at the moment, but when the condition conduces, it starts its activity. So lying latent or dormant is what defilement is called in Pali as Anusaya Kilesa. Then when conditions conduce, these defilements or kilesa, they obsess the mind, meaning they appear in thoughts. That we call obsession of the mind. So the second stage is we call obsessive defilement, or we call priyodhana kilesa, obsessive defilement. Then when it becomes strong, or when it gains force, then it turns into the third one. We call Videkama kilesa in Pali, meaning transgression, defilement. Become manifested by transgression. To understand more clearly, I hope you all know what volcano. You know volcano, English word volcano. I think there are many in Indonesia and most of island countries they have volcano. Even in Burma we have volcano. So if you know something about volcano, most of the volcanoes are, they call it sleeping volcano because they are not active. Most of the time they are not active like a young mountain or some raised land, and there is a crater but there is no activity. So that we call sleeping volcano or an active volcano. That is like our Anusaya kilesa or dormant defilement, dormant or latent defilement. Anusaya kilesa is like a volcano that is sleeping, meaning no activity because there is no condition to active as yet. So when there is no activity, we call this volcano a sleeping volcano. So also defilements, those that are lying latent in our mind, when there are no conditions, we think that there are no defilements because like no active volcano, nobody cares about it. Then when some activity comes, then started manifesting the signs of activity. Like if you pass nearby or nearby residents of a volcano, they feel some heat, increase in environmental heat or temperature, and they may even see some kind of vapor or smoke, like forest fire smoke, or they may feel heat, and some may even receive to their house or inside the house some ashes that has been blown by wind from the volcano. And that is like second stage of defilement, obsessive kilesa or videkama kilesa, obsessive stage of defilement, when it started activity but still harmless to the environment, not yet fully established, as yet its activity is only inside, started warming up or maybe like wakening, sleeping from sleep. One begins his activity. That is the second stage of defilement, obsessive defilement or priyodhana kilesa. Then when the activity becomes strong and ripe, then it started emitting or vomiting lava. Molten lava is very fiery, red hot, slimy, like muddy, marshy, all mixed up with stones, rocks, and mud vomited from the crater. Crater means opening at the top of that volcano and endangering nearby villages and towns, and people can lose property and lives. So that is like transgression kilesa or videkama kilesa or transgression defilement, the third stage. So you can understand now how that this kilesa or defilement works. So how to understand in practical life? Like a person who meditates samatha bhavana or tranquility meditation, when in jhanic trance or when a person is in jhanic bliss, that person doesn't feel anger or depression or fear because the mind is being tranquilized by meditation. So also our meditators here while meditating, because there is no condition that can provoke to anger. So we are not angry while meditating, and here everything is conducive to peace and tranquility. But if this defilement of anger, greed, anger or delusion is not yet eradicated by path and fruition, mega phala, then when condition conducive, it can arise. But for the moment, now in a retreat or even at home when there is no condition, we are not angry all the time. There are times we are at peace and at pleasure. So that is because the defilements are lying laden, as there is no condition as is conducing as yet. So that is the anusaya stage or latent stage of defilement. Then when you either see or hear someone you hate or someone you take it for as enemy, then anger arises in the mind. You become angry. By manifesting, the face becomes red, the heart started pounding, and you may even mild traumas and shakes will arise. That is the second stage of obsessive defilement, because the provocation not yet very strong, so it arises only in the mind. And like in a retreat too, when one is mindful, then one is noting as angry, then it may not come into violence as yet, but in the mind or in the heart, not very comfortable, and all these signs of anger arise. So that is like second stage of that volcano, and we call that is Priyodhana Kilesa, obsessive defilement that arises in the mind only. Because normally we act three ways. With the mind we think, with the mouth we speak, with the body we act. As we think, we speak. As we think, we act. So first, defilement-laden one arises in the mind, and that is called obsessive defilement or Priyodhana Kilesa. This is the second stage of defilement. If the object of anger or defilement pass away quick, then the anger may stop in this second stage. But if that object of anger is persisting, then the defilement gains force, and transgression, then it changes into the third stage, which we call Videkama Kilesa, transgression stage. You transgress means the anger we project or we manifest by speech and by action, like you may go and abuse that person with filthy or harsh language to project or to release your anger. Or if it is more violent, you may even slap or strike, or if you have something you may harm, or it may amount to killing. You can read in the newspaper many incidences. Friends, they go out to eat in a restaurant and started talking, and then become a dispute and discussion, and then heated dispute become a quarrel and a fight, and they kill each other. They cannot stop their anger being inflated. Then they even use whatever they can get, they kill. They kill many times and almost daily in newspaper. So that is we call transgression. We take a Kilesa. So that's how mental develop. When there is no provocation or no condition, we think that we are free from defilements. Like now in a retreat, everything is conducive to peace and harmony, and no defilement arises. That is, though we think because it is not arising, we think that we are free, like that sleeping volcano or dormant volcano. It is anusia stage, latent stage. And when the condition starts at the beginning, condition or provocation being mild, it arises only in the mind, and you get angry. And you can still compose yourself with only some manifestation, like face becomes red, the heart started pounding, and tremors arising. And that is the second stage of obsessive kilesa. And when it becomes more forceful as the provocation continues, then we project through our speech or bodily action, like you may go and abuse or curse, choose whatever filthy language which we may not ordinary times dare to use it, then it blurted out from the mouth, and all these violent actions, even amounting to killing, can arise. So that's how defilement, latent, obsessive and transgression kilesa. That is the simile of forest, large growth, smaller growth, and undergrowth. After understanding three stages of defilement or kilesa, so how to combat or how to suppress or eradicate these in our life? As you all know, defilements or kilesas are unwholesome, not beneficial even in this life. And next life, after death, it is sure to be reborn and follow our ramps if we don't eradicate it. So how to combat these defilements? This transgression, kilesa or defilement, videkama kilesa, can be suppressed by observing sila. Because sila is transgression by speech, by mouth, and by action. So by observing sila devotedly and purify your moral virtue, then the violent or gross form of defilement which we call videkama kilesa or transgression defilement can be checked or finally abandoned. I hope you all know about the unwholesome activities or unwholesome actions. Akusala, Kama, Bata and Abhidhamma mean the unwholesome actions, 3 bodily actions and 4 verbal actions. 3 bodily actions are, all these are actually included in 5 precepts. That's why we often emphasize a person who proclaims as Buddhist, one must observe at least these 5 precepts. And the 5 precepts, the first 3, Panatipata Viramani, abstinence from killing, so including harming or killing living beings. This 1, Kaya Kama, bodily action, unwholesome bodily action, is harming or killing living beings. And the second is Adhenadana Viramani, abstinence from procuring or taking other people's property unethically and illegally. In simple words, it is translated as stealing. Stealing involves all cheating, swindling, all kinds of unlawful and unethically procuring other people's property that are not given to one. So that is the second unwholesome bodily action. And the third is Kamisumichachara. I have often described as sensual misconduct, but usually translated as sexual misconduct, because out of these senses, sexual senses being strongest, they pointed out to sexual misconduct, actually sensual misconduct. Anyway, these 3 are bodily actions that we can transgress as a third defilement. So by observing sila, we are abstaining from these 3. So that's how we can check this videkama or transgression kilesa, by observing sila. Then the 4 unwholesome or unwholesome vachikama, verbal action. It is mentioned as musavara in 5 precepts. Actually, musavara is the leader or the main. Musavara is telling lies which is not true, but its variance, its derivatives are the other 3. So there are 4 akusala or unwholesome verbal action or speech, headed by this musavara, telling lies. Then the second one is pisuna vacha. Pisuna vacha means slandering or backbiting, carrying tales from one person to another, especially those who are living in harmony in the family life, between children and parents, between husband and wife, causing disharmony and hatred among them. And that is we call slandering speech, or carrying tales or backbiting, same thing. This is pisuna vacha. Then prusa vacha. Prusa vacha means harsh, abusive language, like filthy language, cursing, and making all kinds of unholy speech to cause other people distress. So that is abuse. Samphabrahva vacha is frivolous talk, like gossips, that has got no benefit, or that has nothing to do with spiritual development, or that has nothing to do with purifying one's sila. So these four actions are four unwholesome actions one do or one does by mouth or by speech. So these are three kaya karma bodily actions, four vajikama verbal actions that are unwholesome. And these transgression kilesa or defilements can be checked by observing sila or moral virtue, minimum at least 5 precepts. So please remember, and 5 precepts we just say musavada, veramani. We abstain from telling lies means includes this. Pisuna vacha, backbiting or slandering, purusa vacha, harsh or abusive language, and samphabrahva vacha, frivolous talk or gossip. The second form, obsessive kilesa, obsessive defilement, or prayodhana kilesa, obsessive defilement. This cannot be checked by just observing sila. To suppress this second stage of defilement, we have to practice concentration. Only samadhi, bhavana or concentration meditation can suppress this second stage of defilement, which we call obsessive defilement or priyodhana kilesa, because it influences the mind. So mind, we have to develop concentration to calm that defilement. So this can only be suppressed by meditating this samatha bhavana or concentration meditation. The third type of defilement, which we call anusaya kilesa, latent defilement, cannot even eradicated by this samadhi meditation. It can only be eradicated or rooted out by vipassana bhavana or insight meditation when we gain path and fruition knowledge. So these are 3 ways to suppress 3 types of kilesa or defilement. Transgression or vitekama kilesa can be suppressed. Please take note of the word I use, suppress. Suppress means temporarily we can suppress or subdue or reduce or control or check by observing sila or moral virtue. And the second stage, obsessive defilement or priyodhana kilesa, can be suppressed by practicing samadhi or concentration meditation. And anusaya or latent defilement, anusaya kilesa, can only be eradicated by vipassana bhavana or insight meditation when one gains path and fruition knowledge. Now let me answer the questions I received beforehand in writing. Venerable Sayadaw, 1. Sometimes when I see things, aversion arises in my heart. How to avoid this from happening? So here the word aversion, as you know, aversion means dislike. It is same as synonym for anger, hatred. It is dosa, cetasika in Pali. It is rooted in dosa. This arises when we meet unpleasant objects. So this aversion means it is painful mental condition that we hate or we averse or we loathe to accept the unpleasantness either in person or in kind or in things. So that is, as I just now said, it's a dosa cetasika. It is mental defilement. So this arises when, like as just now, I have already given the answer. All the defilements are rooted in lobha, greed, dosa, anger, and moha, delusion. And they lie in three stages, that just now I mentioned. Latent stage, when there is no condition, no provocation, we are free from anger, we are not angry at the time. We are comfortable. But when circumstances change, and if it is contrary to our liking or our pleasure, then suddenly aversion arises. And that we call anger or hatred. And that the first it arises in the mind, and that is the second stage of defilement. We call obsessive kilesa, because it obsesses or influences the mind on. And when this propagation continues and gain force, just now as I have explained, then it transgresses into verbal or bodily action. We project or we manifest our anger through speech or bodily action, like you go and abuse with all kinds of harsh, filthy, uncivilized language to that adverse object or person. So that's how it works. So as a meditator, vipassana bhavana meditator, anything that arises, whether physical or mental, our duty is to make a mental note of it. Like when aversion or anger arises, not just as you understand aversion, or angry, or hatred. And we have many times explained. Mind can take up only one object at a time. So when your noting mind is strong and well established, the anger cannot continue. For anger too is a mental fighter, noting mind too is a mental activity. So the two things cannot coexist. So when your noting mind is strong, the anger will gradually weaken and fade away. So that is how one way to avoid it. So, for immediate response, if possible, for seasoned meditators, you must take up this aversion or anger as meditation object and note it before you transgress in verbal and bodily actions. So just make a mental note of aversion, hatred, angry. They can help. But if the anger is persisting or frequently arising, and that means a person is prone to anger prone, tendency to anger, then you must seek other measures also. There are many ways Buddha has taught how to combat anger or aversion. One is Metta Bhavana, as you all know, it is the counter act to anger. Metta is loving kindness radiation. And our evening chanting, metta chanting. Actually, the word chanting is not correct. Actually, this recitation is, we are radiating metta bhavana, we are practicing metta bhavana as a concentration meditation. So not just simply chanting means just saying by mouth. You must understand the meaning and follow with deep mindfulness throughout recitation of this metta bhavana, like aham viro homi, abhyapajo homi, one by one. You must know the meaning what you are reciting, and with heart and soul you try to radiate or suffuse your goodwill towards all beings. And that is actually our Buddhist way is not chanting. If you look the word chanting in dictionary, it is said singing a song and praise of God. These are God religions. And our Buddhism, there is no God. We are not praising any God. We are doing metta bhavana. It is a meditation, a concentration meditation. So if you can do that, and it can suppress your tendency to anger or aversion to things and people. So that is one way to develop metta bhavana or metta loving kindness concentration meditation. And the second method Buddha recommended is to meditate on death. In Pali we call marana nosati, contemplation on the death. As life is uncertain, nobody knows how long we are going to live. Though longevity of the present age is supposed to be 100 years, anyone can die at any moment. As you all know, death is certain, very certain. If you look around, some die in the mother's womb and they are aborted. Some die in the process of delivering, coming out of mother's womb. Some die immediately after birth. Sometimes as a suckling baby, sometimes as toddler. And if you read newspaper too, many these very saddening stories. They just go for wedding reception with the thought of happiness. And then on the road they met fatal accident and die on the spot. When going out from the house, they are happy, well dressed, and so also some go to dinner parties, and on the return they die on the road. Nobody expected, but that can come any time. So we can contemplate this Marananosi as death is certain. Life is uncertain. Life is uncertain. Nobody knows that we live up to 100 years any time. One person you see in the evening, you may not see in the morning. One you have seen in the morning, you may not be seen in the evening. So if you contemplate on that, there's no point in getting angry. That person you hate too is going to die, and you yourself is going to die. And going to die persons hating each other is very unreasonable and insensible. So in that way you can curb your anger.
那些众生觉得在母亲的胎中是去世的，或有一些胎儿被拔掉，或在生产以后这个胎儿去世了，或出生后那小孩子婴儿就去世了，或在小时候去世了，或有一些人他们突然间去世，好像如果我们看到一些非常伤心的事情，如有一些人很高兴打扮漂漂亮亮去参加人家的婚礼，在路途上碰到意外就当场自命，或有一些参加一些宴席的这个人，后来在路中就发生这种去人，这类死亡其实都可以发生。这为什么我们刚观想生命是无常，死亡是肯定的？好像你看到这个人晚上看到他，明天的早上你不能和他开始往生的，或如果你看到他早上晚上你不能看到他，因为他已经去世了。这是为什么？因为我们这样讲，生命是无常，死亡是肯定，这样就没有理由为什么生气，因为你所讨厌的人也会死去，你本身也会死去。那些将要面对死亡的人，如果他讨厌另外一个也会面对死亡的人，是非常不合理的东西，不合理的事情。因此，我们该非常观想死亡。
Then another method Buddha recommends is establishing relationships. And Anamadaka Sutta Buddha said, one life existence is like a drop of water in the ocean. The volume of and the water in the ocean is unfathomable, cannot be measured how much. So also samsara. You all have heard samsara. Samsara means repeated rebirths. Many existences we've been circling around before we attain Nibbana. So one life existence is just a drop of water in the ocean. And this samsara long longevity, long life. We may be related as brothers and sisters, as fathers and daughters, uncles and nieces, or uncles and nephews. So it's in no point and no sense and not proper to hate each other when we are so closely related in many existences. And that way, Buddha said, you can calm your anger. That's why we are assembled here. Many lifetimes we may be related like daughters and father, uncles and nieces, brothers and sisters. So it is in no point, whoever we meet, to hate or to get anger. We must establish this metta or loving kindness, compassion, this noble, what we call Brahma, we are sublime states of mind. Metta or loving kindness, karuna or compassion, mudita or altruistic joy, or at least we must develop upekkha or equanimity. Because it is no use hating each other. It is disadvantageous because hatred is unwholesome mental state. If unchecked, that can lead one to full lower realms of woeful states or suffering states. So Buddha said, by establishing relationship with the person you hate or oppose, that's how you can curb or you can suppress your anger. Yang